Hello, I'm going to be preaching from Psalm chapter 13. This is to the chief musician, a psalm of David. So go back to the time when David was the king, or even before. It doesn't say exactly the timeline of his life. But the King David did write this psalm. He says in Psalm chapter 13, "How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord? Forever? How long wilt thou hide thy face from me?" So he's obviously in a time of difficulty where he feels like the Lord isn't answering him, that the Lord doesn't see him at that time, that the Lord, when he needs him, has just hidden his face from him. He says, "How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long shall mine enemy be exalted over me?" He says, "How long shall I take counsel in my soul?" So when he's turning his face to God and looking to God as his answer and his hope and his counsel, he's having to move back into his own soul, into contemplation, and just wondering if the Lord sees him, if the Lord's going to come through for him. He says, "How long shall I take counsel in my soul?" He says, as if his own soul is just relieving him of that grief, and giving him the comfort that he's looking for in the face of God, which has been turned. And a lot of times when that happens, it's because we understand that as the people of God, that God's timing is perfect, and that not only are things working out for our good and for, they say, our greatest good, but also that the Lord knows exactly what he wants to do at that exact time, and he doesn't ever sleep or slumber. He doesn't ever forget us, right? This is how, but it isn't in David's heart, and the pain that he's feeling. He's very stressed out by it. It says, "How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily?" So his heart just feels so much sorrow, so much sadness every day. Sorrow in his heart daily. It's just, you see, there's something called broken heart syndrome, and I absolutely believe it, because sometimes we can walk day to day with that same type of heaviness and sadness because of an unresolved scenario, or because of a lack of healing in a specific matter. And yet within that struggle, the Lord he's causing beautiful things to happen. And a lot of times it's within those moments of suffering or sadness or sorrow that he's perfecting both our character and our faith. And I think about I think about Lazarus, and I think about those who have suffered in the scriptures, and how the glory of God was made known through the deliverance and through the movement that Christ made in those moments to rescue. But if we didn't ever need it, I think we would feel comfortable and comforted, and yet a sort of flatline experience. Whereas we need a Savior, and sort of the position of knowing that we need him is where God can come in and show himself strong. And he constantly does that with the weak, with being strong where people are weak. And I see it over and over. He says, how long shall mine enemy be exalted over me? And I think about enemies who are just these type of winning enemies that there's no way to sort of get away from them, or or conquer, or deal with their malicious tongue, or deal with their tyranny, deal with their attacks day after day. Sometimes all you can do is look to God and ask, when, and trust that he knows exactly what to do and the timing of how to do it. He says, how long shall my enemy be exalted over me? So it's as if the enemy has all of the glory, and yet David, who was anointed, who was called out to be used by the Lord, is in a position of fear, of sadness, of feeling abandoned, of feeling humiliated. In verse 3 of Psalm 13, he says, consider and hear me. Do you ever just want to say that to God? Maybe you can say that to God right now. Consider and hear me. Consider, think about it. Consider and hear me. I need you to listen to me right now. As if, you sought God, you sought the attention of someone who had the power to deliver, and you needed it to be then. You needed it to be then because you just didn't know how to continue. I said, consider and hear me, O Lord my God. Lighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. He says, I really am not able to, continue in this state of darkness. He says, lighten my eyes, help me see the hope, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Give me your deliverance. Give me your deliverance, lest mine enemies say, I have prevailed against him. And those that trouble me rejoice when I am moved. Lest my enemies say, I have prevailed against him. And there are people who in our lives, when they want us to fail, when they want sometimes to hide even the truth of what they've done, when they want to prevail over us in a malicious way, when they want to attack us, then it's important to them to gloat in those moments. They say, lest my enemies say I've prevailed against him. And it reminds me of that song, that Michael Jackson song, and it's he just says, beat it. And he also says in that song, basically it doesn't matter if you're wrong or right, just beat it, just win. And I think that sometimes people, they forget, that there's a right and that there's a wrong, and that they just want to win. They just want to win. So sometimes, even the enemies of God, the greatest, triumph for them would not be that they're acknowledging that they're standing in opposition to God, but that they just want to win for whatever area that they've been deceived, and themselves are walking under the impression that the glow and the win is where they need to land. Whether or not it's right or wrong, they just want to beat it. So lest my enemies say, I prevailed against him, and those that trouble me rejoice when I am moved. So the ones that are giving him trouble, they rejoice. They're excited. They're excited when when he's moved. They're excited when they've affected him. They didn't want him to be unaffected by their, sort of torture of him, their constant attacks, their, the pain that they would inflict on him. They want him to feel it. They want to prevail over him. David says in Psalm 13, verse 5, he says, "But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation." And sometimes our mercy from God is for ourselves, because we know that that we couldn't measure up to who God is in character and in holiness and in perfection and beauty and in all the things that make God righteous. So we trust in the mercy of God because of the way that we don't measure up. So I've trusted in thy mercy, that undeserved grace. We trust in that, and David trusted in that. I've trusted in thy mercy. He's trusted in the mercy of God, where he knows when he has enemies, when he has foes, that the Lord will be merciful to him because he has the ear of God. Even when he maybe doesn't have the face of God right now, he says, consider. He says, hear me, He wanted God to hear him in verse 3. He wanted God to consider him, Don't forget me. How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord? He says, forever. We're going to bring it back around, but I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. So in the area where he was so, downtrodden, his emotions had taken a toll because of the attacks, he says, but I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart, his heart, he's going to rejoice, yes, in thy salvation. He says, I will sing unto thee because he hath dealt bountifully with me. So is he going to stop praising? Is he going to stop worshiping? Is he going to stop singing? No, because the Lord has been so overwhelmingly generous with him. And he has a position of gratefulness to God. He's ready to praise. He's ready to sing. The Lord, he has dealt bountifully with him. He said, I will sing unto the Lord because he hath dealt bountifully with me. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in my salvation. So whatever, the position of David against his enemies was at the time, his heart rejoices. His heart rejoices because he knows that he will be saved. Because he knows that God is his salvation. My heart rejoices. My heart shall rejoice, in thy salvation. He's setting it as a future expectation. What's going to happen for David? He's going to be saved by God. He says, I will sing unto the Lord because he hath dealt bountifully with me. And then it just leads to rejoicing and remembering the way that the Lord has done him in the past, the way that the Lord has blessed him in the past. And that blessing has been bountiful. That means it's full. All right, well, I hope you have a great day. Thank you.